In Q2 FY24, strong loan growth has not translated into operating profit growth for the banking sector. This is due to the fact that net interest margin for majority of the players has fallen sharply on a sequential basis. Surprisingly, despite low credit deposit ratio of PSU banks, the NII growth of PSU banks has been weaker than that of private banks. Let's exclude HDFC Bank from the quarterly numbers as they reported merged number of HDFC Limited, which had no details with respect to YOY or quarter-on-quarter. So for the banking sector, the net interest income growth was about 15.5% YOY and about 1% sequentially. Operating profit growth was weak. It grew by just 9.8% YOY but declined by 5.8% quarter-on-quarter. Profit after tax, that is PAT, was led by lower provisions or provision write back in some cases. So PAT of the sector grew by 29.5% YOY and almost flat on a sequential basis. The stress declined for the sector. Asset quality of the sector continued to improve. Gross NPA value-wise is down 5.5% or 5.8% quarter-on-quarter to be precise, and net NPA value-wise is down more than 9% quarter-on-quarter. Gross NPA ratio and net NPA ratio for the sector is the lowest that you are seeing in last decade or even more. Restructured book of the sector of the lenders who have actually reported the numbers continue to decline. So the restructured book actually declined by almost 32% YOY and about 7.3% quarter-on-quarter. Restructured book forms about 0.8% of the loans versus 1.4% YOY and about 0.9% on a sequential basis. PSU Bank's restructured book declined by almost 30.5% YOY and about 7.5% quarter-on-quarter. Private Bank's restructured book declined by more than 36% YOY and about 6.7% quarter-on-quarter. Let's take a look at the PSU Bank's performance. Now, PSU Bank's the NII growth was weak, largely led by Bank of Baroda, which continued to see its net interest margin decline for second quarter in a row. The net interest income grew by 13.2% YOY and about 0.2% quarter-on-quarter. This compares to loan growth of 13.9% YOY and about 3.5% quarter-on-quarter for them. Operating profits of the PSU banks declined massively by 8.8% quarter-on-quarter, especially as they had strong treasury income in Q1 FY24 as well. Asset quality continued to improve for PSU banks, largely led by write-offs and decline in slippages. Slippages for PSU banks declined by 11.3% YOY and about 11% quarter-on-quarter. So the annualized slippage ratio for PSU banks was at 1.1% when compared to 1.4% on a YOY basis and about 1.3% on a sequential basis. Private banks performance. Now, private banks' NII growth was weaker than their loan growth on a sequential basis. The NII grew by 19.5% YOY and about 2.2% quarter-on-quarter. This compares to loan growth of nearly 5% quarter-on-quarter for them. Operating profits of the private banks declined by 0.7% quarter-on-quarter as they continued to see elevated OPEX on account of branch expansion. Asset quality continued to improve for private banks, but some of them have seen sharp rise in slippages, which should work as a caution for others. So, ex of HDFC Bank, private bank slippages were actually down by 14.7% YOY and about 6.6% quarter-on-quarter. The annualized slippage ratio for private banks ex of HDFC Bank was about 1.83% when compared to nearly 2.6% YOY and more than 2% on a sequential basis. So, in terms of outlook, the near-term net interest margin can remain under pressure for the sector. Some of the banks have lowered the net interest margin guidance for FY24. Operationally, FY24 will see weaker growth in operating profits than FY23. Credit costs can see some rise for some of the players in coming quarters on account of some stress being seen with small players. Business growth momentum has remained strong and will continue to be so in coming quarters with respect to loans and deposits. But will it make sense with respect to P&L of the sector? Time will tell. Now, RBI has cautioned bankers with respect to unsecured loans of less than 50,000 rupees of ticket size. Till now, not much of an impact has been seen, but as they say, picture abhi baki hai mere dost, so let's wait and watch.